Hey girlfriends. I did a video a little while ago where I compared divorce and slavery, and I'm sort of feeling bad about it, and I'm hoping that I did the right thing, that I said it in the right way, that it's not going to be offensive to people, because I don't mean to be offensive at all. In fact, I did include a little disclaimer, like, please understand that I know that marriage and divorce, especially as it exists today, does not compare to the suffering that enslaved people in the United States and all throughout the world have experienced. And probably the reason that I made that comparison is because in reading about the history of divorce and the history of the women's suffrage movement in this country, particularly in like the 1890s and early 1900s, some of the original suffragists like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and others compared marriage at the time, marriage and divorce, or lack of access to divorce, to slavery. And it made sense, if you look at it through the lens of that time period. They had just come through the Civil War. They're on the other side of the Civil War. Many of the women who were active in the suffragist movement were from the North and had worked heavily on the abolitionist causes already. So sort of the ideas around slavery and enfranchisement had been something that they were really heavily immersed in. And so it was something that they talked about. And also, marriage and divorce then wasn't what it is now. Of course, at that time, women didn't have the right to vote, so they were even more disenfranchised in that way. And in many cases, really couldn't leave their marriages, not just because divorce wasn't as much of an option as it is today, which is certainly true, but also because women didn't have any real economic power once they left their marriages. They couldn't, get jobs. They couldn't earn a living outside their home in the same way that women can today, though admittedly women are still earning at a diminished degree compared to men. But in the 1890s, early 1900s, the differences were even more pronounced, so women felt even more trapped in their marriages than they do now. And a lot of the early language from the suffragists focused on the slavery movement, the anti-slavery movement and abolition, and had a lot to do with the Civil War and what they had witnessed and what was going on in the national consciousness at that time. So I did make a comparison in one of my videos from slavery and divorce, and I think it sort of falls apart today with the way marriage and divorce is practiced. But I think it's interesting to look at it through a historical lens and look at how far we've come, both in the sense that it's great that there's so much more access to opportunities for women, including but not limited to divorce, but the slavery comparison doesn't work as well today. It definitely doesn't compare to actual literal ownership of a human being. And I don't want anybody to think that I don't know that. But we also still have a long ways to go till women have actual equality compared with men. And I know too that difference is even more pronounced when you look at women of color. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, to talk about where that came from and talk about the history, because I think it's interesting, celebrate how far we've come, and talk about how far we still have yet to go.